When Elon Musk's company SpaceX launched the rocket Falcon 1, it became one of the only privately funded rockets to go into space. And Elon's rich, so of course it was privately funded. And who can forget the innovations of Tesla? But it turns out this rich bastard and his companies have received at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, and tax credits. But how does the government pay for contracts, Trap University? Oh, you didn't know? With your tax money, of course. You idiot. I have never paid such close attention to tax money until I became a YouTuber, because when you work a job, all the taxes just automatically get taken out of your check and you don't even get a chance to miss the money because you never see it in the first place. But when YouTube pays you, you gotta calculate how much of your hard-earned money to give to the federal government. Oh man, bro, I hate paying taxes. Whenever you go to H&R Block and they tell you how much you owe, you start to completely understand tax evasion. Now look, I'm all for my tax dollars helping education and paying police officers, firemen, and paramedics, for sure. But what the hell are we giving Elon $38 billion for? And bro, the United States promised $30 billion to Israel. Like, what? What the fuck? Promise? I can't even get my dog to promise not to steal the slice of pizza off my plate, and I feed and house this man. Now, I know this is nothing new. Rich people benefiting from your tax dollars. Say it ain't so. But I believe some people are completely misled on just how much wealthy people benefit from us.
We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Whenever you watch a news clip on YouTube from New York, LA, or Chicago, or even San Francisco, you're bound to see a "this is what you guys voted for" comment. But those people fail to realize that no matter who you vote for, billions of dollars worth of your tax money will go to both a billionaire and a country that commits actual war crimes.
You have just admitted to being a war criminal.
Do they give Nobel Peace Prizes to war criminals?
All the time.
But politicians specialize in convincing people, hey, you see what they're doing over there? We'd never let that happen. Ignoring the fact that either the same thing or far worse is actually happening in your state as well. Like if you look at the news of any Democratic city or state and it's covering drug addicts, people will say this is what they voted for, ignoring that literally in every rural part of America, blue or red state, crackheads are everywhere. It's not just Kensington, Philadelphia. You ever been to rural Oklahoma or Indiana? In just 3 years, Amazon got $44.7 billion from tax profits, but they only paid $1.9 billion in corporate income tax, giving Amazon a tax rate of 4.3%. That's not even an option for you as a taxpayer federally. Even if you move to a state with no income taxes, you still have to pay one of the 7 federal tax rates, with the lowest being 10%. Both parties, the Democrats and Republicans, have been complicit in rich people paying less taxes while also benefiting from people paying taxes. And now I'm convinced that the only reason the Biden administration spent over $100 billion on migrants is because they knew what the next administration had planned. What if I told you that Donald Trump's big beautiful bill cuts $3.8 trillion from tax revenue, partially due to the fact that 6 out of every $10 in tax breaks introduced in this bill will go toward people earning $217,000 a year or more? You don't give something a stupid name like the big beautiful bill unless you're trying to distract people from something. Only 12% of the US even makes more than $200,000 a year. So what you're saying is I gotta get rich to get a break. Okay. Oh, I see. That's why rich people move to Dubai, because the UAE doesn't have income tax. And wait, Monaco doesn't have income tax? Monaco. Hold on. You talking about $2,700 a month for a studio, Monaco? $3,200 a month for a studio, Monaco? Nah. Y'all got it. Why? And if you don't know what Monaco is, it can easily be found on YouTube under the supercar rich people clickbait videos. This is Monaco. You can't even park at the main casino in Monaco, which is the only reason Monaco still exists. You can't even park there unless you're in a supercar. Y'all don't pay taxes. That's crazy. Did you know that King Charles, King of the United Kingdom, and his son, William, Prince of Wales, are not legally required to pay income tax, but for at least the past 30 years, Charles and his mother have voluntarily paid their taxes? How nice. And these guys get a salary from the government just for being the royal family. And if you're from the UK, I'm sure you already know that you pay their salary, which doesn't include all the money they make on the side. And by the side, I don't mean like an odd job or an investment. William is the Duke of Cornwall. And do you know why that title was worth $1 billion? Because the Duke is legally the owner of about 210 miles worth of land in the United Kingdom. But I know that all of this has been mentioned by every person that has ever made a video even slightly criticizing the royal family. But damn, bro, Prince Andrew, yes, Jeffrey Epstein's friend Prince Andrew, lives in the Royal Lodge, which is paid for by the state, aka taxpayers. And this is not just a UK problem. Donald Trump was the first billionaire to ever be elected president, and in his first term, he said he would donate his salary, but then when asked for proof, the White House declined to comment. Then, this year, he says that he donated his presidential salary to renovate the White House. I'm the only president to do it. I'm a great guy. Yeah, what a donation, bro. You donated your check to renovate the house you're currently living in. So if I pay to replace the cheap ceiling that my landlord put in my house, does that count as me donating my money? Again, we pay for the presidential salary. Joe Biden, while not a billionaire, he is a multimillionaire, and he still accepted his presidential salary, which is $400,000 a year. Our two most recent presidents could have definitely refused the salary. And you might think that's unreasonable, but these people make more money outside of the White House. But, of course, only 3 US presidents have ever declined their salary because they acknowledged that they were already rich. Herbert Hoover, who in today's money would have been worth over $100 million, declined his presidential salary. JFK, who adjusted for inflation would have had $1 billion today, and George Washington. But George did end up eventually accepting what would have been the equivalent to $900,000 a year in salary. Now, that might have only been $25,000 back then, but it's crazy when you realize that the average guy in 1770s Boston only made about $13 a year. And since we're talking about American history, we might as well cover the fact that when we invade and destroy a country, the government uses tax money to pay for billions of dollars worth of contracts for American contractors to rebuild the country we destroyed. And some will say, oh, at least we're the ones rebuilding it. That's more American jobs. In reality, though, we were all alive during the Iraq War, or at least your parents were. We didn't get paid for it. In fact, we paid for it. Now, more than 70 companies got billions of dollars worth of contracts to rebuild Iraq, and wouldn't you know it, all of these companies also donated money to George Bush's presidential campaign, the president who started the war. So, you see, they paid for the privilege of being paid our tax dollar. Well, I was a child when the Iraq War was happening, so my parents' tax dollars. And I gotta admit, just visiting the Wikipedia page for the Afghanistan war and seeing the phrase Taliban victory will always be crazy. But I mean, I guess they deserved a W. We came in because we were looking for one guy, and the entire country got destroyed as a result. But can you guess how much this war costs? Like, presently, because we're still paying for the aftermath. $2 trillion.
Damn, boy. Damn, boy!
Anyway, Dick Cheney, former Vice President Dick Cheney, although he stepped down as the CEO of a company called Halliburton because it would have been a conflict of interest, he still held many shares in the company. But Halliburton acquired a company called KBR way back before the war started. And once the invasion of Afghanistan kicked off, KBR was awarded several contracts, including building a new embassy in Kabul and several others, with the total amount of taxpayer money they ended up making being $2.3 billion. So, do you see what happened there? The man who supported and pushed for this war owned major shares in the company that his partner, the president, would award contracts to. But not only that, there were over 70 American companies that were awarded contracts for this war, according to the ICIJ, and nearly 60% of those companies had employees or board members that either worked in or had close ties to the executive branch of government, for both the Democrat and Republican parties. And this should be pretty clear, but just in case it's not, the executive branch is the part of government that the big boys work in, like the president. And since the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were fought under Republican and Democrat presidents, people close to both of them had their companies awarded these contracts. We're talking at least $8 billion that went to people and companies just because they had connections in government. And don't let all of this make you think that I'm highly upset about where my tax money is going, because I'm not that naive. I know that we have no control over what the US does with the money, and regardless if I don't agree with something, the government could not care less. We will still pay for whatever they want. I'm just making this point because in America, a lot of people seem to be confused about this, and they point fingers about which president or governor is spending their tax money on something they don't agree with. Just remember, over 400 people in the House of Representatives vote on sending billions of dollars to Israel, a country that many Americans can't even point to on a map. And consistently, out of these 400 people that vote, less than 100 of them vote against sending these billions of dollars. There are a few things you can guarantee with tax money in the United States. It will always pay for contracts that go to the president's friends. It will always go towards the president's salary, even though we haven't had a president that wasn't from a wealthy family since Nixon, which was 51 years ago. And you can always guarantee that we will send money to Israel. And the sooner you accept this, the less disappointed you'll be. Because that's what both parties in every presidential election always agree on, no matter what they disagree on. The only difference is which billionaires in the United States will also get their share. But that's all I got for you guys today, man. I appreciate the support as always, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.